I used to think the stories about this house were just rumors, until I saw the child at the end of the hallway. I moved into this house thinking it was a fresh start, quiet neighborhood, old charm, and enough space to finally breathe again. But from the very first day, something about it felt off. Not the kind of old house creaks people joke about. This was different. The silence here didn't feel peaceful. It felt heavy, like the walls had been listening for a long time. The hallway was the strangest part. It stretched straight from the living room to the back of the house, narrow, dim, and colder than any other place inside. Even during the day, light never seemed to reach the very end. No matter how many bulbs I replaced, the last few feet always stayed in shadow, as if the darkness refused to leave. At first, I told myself it was just an illusion, maybe the angle or poor lighting. But every time I walked down that hallway, it felt longer than it should have been. Like with every step, the air got thicker, heavier. And the quiet? It wasn't really quiet at all. There were these faint sounds, like a whisper just out of reach, or the soft thud of something small moving behind me. I'd pause and listen, my heart pounding, but nothing. Just the low hum of the house breathing around me. Still, every instinct told me I wasn't alone there. Sometimes I'd catch a flicker of movement at the corner of my eye, small, quick, like someone darting into a room before I could turn. I blamed it on exhaustion, on stress, on my imagination trying to fill the silence. But even then, deep down, I knew something was watching from that end of the hallway, waiting, and no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, I couldn't shake the feeling that sooner or later I'd have to walk all the way down and find out what was standing in the dark. It happened on the fourth night after I moved in. The house had already made itself known. The cold spots, the quiet knocks, that uneasy stillness that seemed to follow me. But that night, it felt heavier. The kind of quiet that presses on your chest and makes you listen harder than you should. I was half asleep when I heard it. A soft, tapping sound. Not loud, not frantic, just gentle, rhythmic taps coming from the hallway. I told myself it was the pipes, or maybe a window shifting in the wind, but then it stopped. And right after the silence settled, I heard something else. Tiny footsteps. Slow, careful, like someone trying not to be heard. My whole body went cold. I turned my head toward the door, and that's when I saw it. A faint glow spilling from the hallway. I couldn't tell if it was moonlight or something else, but it made the air look hazy. I stepped out of bed trying not to make a sound and peeked into the hallway. At first I saw nothing, just that long stretch of darkness. But then, my eyes caught movement. At the very end, near the last door, stood a small figure, motionless, barely visible. It looked like a child, short, thin, head tilted slightly to the side. I blinked once, and it was gone. Just gone. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I tried to convince myself it was a trick of the light, or my tired mind playing games. But before I could step back into my room, a sound drifted through the hallway. A soft laugh. A child's laugh. Faint, echoing, but close enough to make me freeze where I stood. That was the first time I saw the child at the end of the hallway. But it wasn't the last. After that first night, sleep stopped coming easily. Every creak, every shift of the air made me flinch. I kept the lights on for a while, telling myself it would help, but somehow it made things worse. Because even with the lights glowing down the hallway, I could still feel it. That presence. Like something small, quiet, and patient was standing just out of sight. It started happening again a few nights later. I'd be lying in bed, half awake, when I'd hear the faint patter of footsteps, soft, uneven, almost playful. They would start at the far end of the hallway, stop halfway, and then nothing. Just silence. I'd get up every time and find the hallway empty. But here's what scared me most. Each night the footsteps came closer, a few feet nearer, like whatever it was slowly making its way toward my door. I even tried recording it once, set up my phone, left it running through the night. The next morning, when I played it back, there it was. Those same footsteps. But the sound wasn't coming from far away. It was right next to the microphone. And at one point, just before the recording cut off, a whisper. 2 words. I'm here. The next night, I couldn't bear to sleep in the bedroom. I stayed in the living room with every light on. But even then, I could still hear them. The faint taps, the quiet laughter, the sound of something brushing against the wall. It was like the house itself was alive, and the child was moving through it. Each sunrise brought a tiny bit of relief, but as the sky darkened again, I'd feel that same dread return, crawling up from the hallway like a shadow that refused to fade. Night after night, it came back. Closer, quieter. And deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before the child reached the end of the hallway and finally stepped into my room. By the second week, I was running on barely any sleep. My eyes burned, my thoughts blurred, but I couldn't rest, not while that thing kept creeping closer every night. I needed answers, anything to explain what was happening inside that house. So one morning, after hearing the laughter again just before dawn, I decided to search every inch of that hallway, every room, every corner, every forgotten space. Most of it looked normal, dusty, old, lifeless. But then I noticed something strange near the baseboard at the very end of the hallway, a small crack in the wall like something had been pried open before and then covered again. I pulled at it gently, and a loose panel came off, revealing a small space behind the wall, a hidden compartment. Inside was a single, faded shoebox. It was covered in dust, tied shut with a piece of thin, fraying string. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside were old photographs, black and white, worn at the edges. All of them showed the same boy, around 6 or 7 years old. Pale face, hollow eyes, always standing in that same hallway, my hallway. Under the photos was a folded piece of paper, brittle, yellowed with age. It was a missing child poster. The name read Eli Turner, last seen 42 years ago. But what made my blood run cold was the last photo in the box. It wasn't old. It was printed on newer paper, and in it, the same boy stood at the end of the hallway. Only this time, the picture was taken from my phone's camera. I froze. My phone had been in my room the whole time. I hadn't taken that photo. That's when I realized the child wasn't just haunting this house. He'd been watching me. And somehow, he wanted me to find him. After finding that box, everything in the house changed. The air felt colder. The nights grew longer, and the sound of those small footsteps never stopped, even during the day. It was like the child knew I'd uncovered his secret, and now he didn't have to hide anymore. I tried leaving the house. I really did, but every time I packed a bag, something would happen. A door would slam shut, a light would flicker, or my phone would start showing those photos again, dozens of them. Each one a little closer, the child standing in the hallway, then by the door, then beside my bed. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I shouted into the darkness, begging him to stop, to tell me what he wanted. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, I heard it. That small voice again, trembling, broken. He whispered, You found me. Now stay. The lights went out. Every single one. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. When they flickered back on a second later, the hallway was empty. But on the floor where the shoebox had been, there was something else. A new photograph. It was me, standing at the end of the hallway. Now I don't hear the footsteps anymore. I don't hear the laughter. The house is quiet. Too quiet. Sometimes I look down that hallway and swear I see movement. A figure, small and still. Only this time, it's not the child watching from the shadows. It's me. Some stories stay with you because they never really end. They just change who they belong to. Maybe that's what happened here. Maybe that child wasn't trapped in this house. Maybe he was just waiting for someone else to take his place. I've started wondering if some places remember the pain of the people who lived there. If walls can hold memories, and hallways can keep secrets alive long after everyone else has forgotten. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.